Hey there. I am just getting home after giving an exam for undergraduate nursing students. It's about 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I know you all will appreciate this. The undergraduate students are about a week ahead of you in graduating. I teach seniors that are getting ready to take their NCLEX, so they're in their very last semester. I know you can appreciate their journey, and none of us would ever want to go back to our undergraduate work. It's been a very long day supporting them, and it's hard sitting in a classroom with 30 very anxious students taking a final exam 2 days before they graduate. So much of their perception is their own worldview. So they talk about how anxious they are and how nervous they are and how tired they are. And they forget those of us that are in the role of the educator, that we're the ones that designed the final exam. And we know that if that final exam isn't well crafted, it could be the stumbling block to prevent their graduation. That's a lot of responsibility. So you guys are getting ready right on the cusp to be sitting exactly where I was sitting tonight. And I was watching these students and I thought, oh my goodness, I am teaching two groups of students who are under tremendous amount of stress, who are very, very tired, who really are probably at that point of just wanting it to be over. So know that I'm thinking about you, and I know that you're wearing down. Your integrative literature reviews were just fantastic. As a group, as a whole, you guys are doing a great job. Your revisions from part one that integrated into part two were lovely. There are so many good ideas. I learned so much from reading your work and looking at the articles that you're synthesizing. So for me, it's developmental, but it's also really neat to see your thinking and your organization and the unique approaches to how you're putting your integrative literature reviews together. The matrices, which I know were time consuming and tedious, if you have feedback on those, I do not need you to revise those matrices. Unless I specifically said you need to revise these. You can just take the feedback and apply it the next time you do a literature matrix. Notice that I'm affirming a future use of a matrix. Anytime you're going to do an article, my encouragement is keep this template. Use it in the future as you're in your role of a nurse researcher. But you guys did a great job. Found some really cool things. So good use of the tool. When you submit part three, you are not going to resubmit your matrix. That's a working tool for you to collect your ideas, organize your thinking, and put your thoughts onto the paper. So you've done that. You've demonstrated to me that you've used the integrative literature review matrix well, that you've integrated that into your analysis. I don't need to see it again. If it happens to be at the bottom of your paper because you hyperlinked it, that's fine. You don't have to take it out. If you've put it on it as an attachment, that's fine. Just don't get tangled up and be panicked if it's not there. I'm not looking for it again. When you turn in your entire ILR, it is a complete part one, part two, part three, completely polished, a paper that flows well. The integration of level 1, 2, 3 headers is an absolute minimum requirement. The addition of level 4 headers, maybe. But 1, 2, and 3 are a must. The other thing I'm going to remind you is when you are done with your paper, I want you to print off your paper and get your reference sheet, and then go through your paper page by page and check off all of the articles or the author's work that you have actually cited in your paper. Your reference list is only to be articles that are still in your paper, that are referenced and cited in your paper. The best way I have found to do that is to print it off, put your reference sheet on the right and your paper on the left, read through your paper in paper format, check off the ones as you come to them in your paper, and then when you get to the end, look at your reference list. Are there things that are on your reference list that aren't cited in your paper? Get rid of them. Are there things in your paper that you've cited and they're not on your reference list? That's an uh-oh as well. Add them to your reference list, okay? They've got to jive. Be intentional about that. Be polished about that. I treat my reference list as the last part of the paper I read. So I finish my paper and then I go through my reference list methodically, cleaning it up, partly because that's respectful of the author's work whom you are citing. And secondly, it is a scholarly behavior for you to audit and edit your own practices so that when your final document is done, you've been a good steward of the academic work of others. And the other side of it, it's just plagiarism if you don't do it. So Do it right. Altruistically, I'd rather you approach it that way versus a punitive way, but it does work both ways. Okay, the other thing when you're wrapping up part 3 is make sure you have added an abstract. If you already have put your abstract up there, make sure your abstract still says what your abstract should say. Your abstract should say, this is my research question, a general outline of your methods, and then your findings with keywords. It shouldn't be like an introductory paragraph. It should say your endeavor, your goal, how you did it, and your findings. So if I wanted to not read 25 pages, I should be able to read your abstract and know what your question was, how you answered your question, what the answer was, future findings, future indications. Those are great too. But make sure that you've added that. Let's see if there's anything else on my notes. Part 3. Make sure that as you go through part 3, you answer your research question. So you've started out with a PICA question. Make sure that in part of your discussion of your findings, you answer the question. This is better than this. This was, I'm unclear. The literature doesn't expressly say. There's more research needed, whatever. Just give me an answer. My hope is that you've gotten enough, that you've done your research well enough that you've answered your own question. That's the goal of this whole process. Okay. Next week, your log number 2, you should be actively auditing your previous logs so that your portfolio number 3 has the artifact that has your goals and objectives that you can find a clean copy that's loaded in Typhon if you haven't maintained a copy. You should have all of your goals and objectives measured, red font after each one of them. Are they met? They all should be met. If for some reason you're working on 1 or 2 goals in these last 2 weeks of your practicum course, you can put the end of the course and just put pending in parentheses behind it. Just put the date of the end of the course. I will know that that is your intention. Now, if you have half of your goals and objectives are still pending, we need to have a conversation and talk about where you are and sort through that. Make sure your time logs are also properly calculating your times and that you're on track to earn your 200 hours so that you can graduate. And your portfolio part 3 is due, and that is the polished document. Go back into part 1 and part 2. Make sure you have included all of the formative feedback throughout that tell I'm tired. Through that whole process. And so when I look at your portfolio 3, I'm going to start at the very front and I'm going to follow it through. Make sure that you have connected your work to your NLN competencies. Remember, you're going to put it in the bracket with a competency number in it. That should be throughout your document. Make this about you. Personalize it. I should be able to open this portfolio and go, wow. Look at what they've done. And it isn't just about, wow, look at them as an educator. It's, wow, look at them as a nurse. I want your story. We want to highlight the education role, but know that's a component of who you are as a nurse. So much of our history as nurses is what makes us competent or exceptional, depending on where we are, educators. So use all of it. Pull it all together. Okay. I'm rambling because I'm tired, so I'm going to let you guys go. Touch base with questions or concerns. You are only just a few very, very short weeks away from graduation. We're gearing up on campus to welcome graduates to campus, so please let us know if you're going to come. We'd love to be able to see you. I will be at the reception and graduation, so please, let us know if you're coming and make sure you say hello so we can congratulate you and celebrate you then. I'm thinking about you. Touch base with questions. Take care.